We hear the word average all the time, right? The average price of a house, the average salary for a job, it sounds so straightforward, so simple. But what if I told you that one little word is often used to, well, mislead you? Today, we're going to crack this case wide open. We're going to become data detectives and figure out what average is really telling us. So let's kick things off with a real head-scratcher. Imagine you see a job ad, and it says the average salary is almost $250,000. I mean, wow, right? But then you hear that most people who actually work there feel like they're getting a raw deal. How is that even possible? How can both things be true at the same time? Well, let's dig in.
All right, every good investigation needs a primary suspect. And our first one is the most common culprit, the one we all think of when we hear the word average, the good old arithmetic mean.
This is probably the one you remember from math class. It's pretty simple, really. You just take all the numbers, add them all up, and then divide by how many numbers you have. Boom! You get a single number that's supposed to represent the whole group. A really great way to picture the mean is to think of a seesaw. If you put a little weight on the board for every single piece of data, the mean is the exact spot where you'd have to put the pivot point to make it perfectly balanced. Every single value, no matter how big or small, gets a say. So let's see how this works with our mystery company. Okay, so we've got 4 people making pretty normal salaries, in the $50,000 to $65,000 range. But then, whoa, look at that last one. A $1 million salary, probably the CEO's. This thing is what we call an outlier. It's an extreme number that just doesn't seem to fit with the rest of the gang. And here's what happens. When we add all 5 of those salaries up and divide by 5, we get our mystery number, $246,000. Now, mathematically, that's correct. It is the balancing point. But does that number feel like it tells the true story of that company? No way. That one giant outlier has dragged the whole average way, way up.
Okay, so clearly the mean can be a little dramatic. It gets easily pulled around. So, our investigation needs another tool, a different way to find the center that isn't so easily pushed around. It's time to talk about the median.
The median has a totally different job. It couldn't care less about how big or small the numbers are. Its only goal is to find the exact middle of the road. It's the value that splits the entire data set perfectly in two, with half the numbers below it and half the numbers above it.
But, and this is super important, there is one golden rule for finding the median. You absolutely have to get your data in order first. You line everything up from smallest to largest. If you don't do that first, you're not going to find the real middle.
Okay, so let's do that with our salaries. We line them up, 50,000, 55,000, 60,000, 65,000, and that big one, $1 million salary at the very end. So now that they're all in order, which number is sitting right smack in the middle?
$60,000. Now that number tells a much more honest story about what a typical person at this company probably makes. The median sees that giant $1 million salary way over there at the end, but it doesn't really care how big it is. It just counts it as one spot in line and stays firmly in the middle.
We're getting so close to cracking this case, but we need to bring in one more specialist. This tool has a very particular set of skills. Let's introduce the mode.
The mode is maybe the easiest one to understand. It's not about balance, it's not about being in the middle, it's just about being popular. The mode is simply the value that shows up more than any other in your data.
So what's the mode's superpower? Well, it's the only one of these measures that can work with things that aren't numbers. I mean, think about it. You can't calculate the average eye color, right? That makes no sense. But you can absolutely find out the most common eye color. And that, my friends, is the mode.
Here's a perfect example. Let's say a t-shirt shop sells shirts in these colors. You just count them up. We've got 1 red, 1 green, 1 yellow, but wait, 1, 2, 3 blues. So blue is the mode. It tells the shop owner, hey, blue is your most popular color. Super simple and super useful.
And just a quick side note, it's good to know that sometimes there's one clear winner. That's called unimodal. Sometimes there's a tie with 2 popular values, and that's bimodal. And, if every single value only shows up once, then there's just no mode at all.
Okay, detective team is assembled. We've got the mean, the median, and the mode. With these 3 tools in our belt, we have everything we need to finally solve the mystery of that crazy salary number.
And the key to the whole puzzle comes down to this one powerful word, resistance. See, a resistant measure is one that doesn't get totally thrown off by an outlier. It's tough. It holds its ground and gives you a much more stable idea of what's typical.
And this, right here,
is the main event. This is the crucial difference. The mean is not resistant. That one huge CEO salary acts like a giant magnet, just yanking the whole average towards it. But the median is resistant. It sees the outlier, but since it only cares about the middle spot, it stays put, giving us a way more reliable center.
So let's go back to our original mystery. The answer is suddenly crystal clear, isn't it? The company advertised the mean salary, $246,000. Yeah, it was technically correct, but it was also super misleading because it was so twisted by that one huge salary. The median salary, $60,000, tells the real story of what a typical employee is actually making. Case closed.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's simple. From now on, whenever you hear someone use the word average, a little alarm bell should go off in your head. Don't just nod and accept the number. You now have the power to ask the smartest follow-up question. Which average are you talking about? Do you mean the mean or the median? Because as we just saw, the answer to that question can tell two completely different stories.